Support comes from Hampton Roads Community Foundation, partnering with donors from all walks of life to improve southeastern Virginia through grants, scholarships, and leadership initiatives. Learn more at hamptonroadscf.org.
Hello, everyone. I'm Barbara Ham-Lee. 2 shows in one today. First up, all you need to know about voting. Are you registered? Do you know your voting location? What about early voting? What do you do if you've been erased from the voter rolls? What can we say to you to convince you to vote? We have guests on hand with information specific to Virginia and North Carolina. Then later in the show, 2 jazz greats, Jay Sinnett and Justin Kauflin, with news about the Phoebus Jazz Festival. Stay tuned. Another View will be right back after this national, regional, and local news from NPR and WHRO News.
Discussing today's topics from an African-American perspective, this is Another View.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Another View. I'm Barbara Ham-Lee. The last time we voted for president, in 2020, 66% of all eligible voters participated in the process. Now, that's nationwide. But the question is, were you one of them? What about this year? Are you planning to vote? Not sure? On today's Another View, we're talking about the voting process. We will not tell you who to vote for, but we will encourage you to register and vote. Joining me at the table are Jalen Drury with the nonpartisan organization Fair Election Center. Hi, Jalen.
Hi, how are you?
Yeah, good. Thank you so much for being here. Destiny Jackson, she's a senior political science and pre-law major at Norfolk State University. Hi there. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. I'm good. And Vicki Greco, the education director and veteran board member of the League of Women Voters of Southampton Roads. Hi, Vicki.
Hey, Barbara.
How are you?
Great. Thanks. Great to be here.
Good. And I am so excited to have you all here because every week I encourage people to vote since we started this election cycle. And so I really want to get down to some nuts and bolts. But I'm curious. So, Jalen, you and Destiny are both under the age of 30. And you're very politically active. And I really want to know you all's story. So I'm going to start with you, Jalen. How did you get involved and why are you involved?
First off, thanks so much for having me.
Sure.
It's a pleasure to be here. For me, it started in high school, right? I started in high school. I'm a graduate of Churchland High School, a native of Portsmouth, Virginia. And while I was in high school, I felt the need to get involved. Right? I felt the need to get involved in my community. And so while I was at Churchland High School, I started writing articles about what was happening in politics while I was at Churchland. And it continued on to when I went to Norfolk State University to pursue my bachelor's in political science. While I was there, I worked on several campaigns. I encouraged people to participate in the process, but I also ran for SGA president and represented the students of Norfolk State University because I realized how important leadership was, but I wanted to continue that by encouraging people to participate in the process of voting.
Are you going to run for office at some point?
Maybe. Exclusive here first
hear
for you, right?
Exactly. Hear it straight from me. Destiny, what about you?
So thank you for this opportunity as well. So for me, it started really at the age of 6, maybe. Very early. I grew up with my mother and my grandparents. So, when you grow up around that older generation, you really have those ground roots of the older generation. So I remember when I was at Rich Neck Elementary School going around telling everyone, this was during the 2008 election. Mm-hmm. I remember I was going around telling everyone, go vote for this person, vote for that person. At the age of 6, couldn't even vote at that time. But I knew that it was something that was important. I didn't know what it was for, but I knew that was important because it was.
I'm curious. Did your mom or your grandparents take you with them into the voting booth?
Yes,
when you were young?
They used to take me all the time. I remember the first time I went, and I was like, "What?" Didn't know what it was, but I knew that it was something important. I remember my grandparents. They took me to my first rally that was held downtown Newport News. To this day, I remember exactly what happened. My grandfather had me on his shoulders just to see who was speaking at that time. And to this day, like, it's just such a core memory for me. So all throughout elementary school, middle school, and high school, that was kind of something that I did. But as I went into Norfolk State, it kind of grounded itself. So I became the president of the Political Science Association. I brought it back in 2022 because of COVID. It kind of washed away. And currently, I'm a member of the State Council of Higher Education for Virginia, the Student Advisory Council. I was co-chair last year. Hopefully co-chair again this year. But within that, I was able to actually see how the work that we put in as students, how that kind of starts at the state level and how that progresses into the general national level.
Okay, Vicki, what about you?
Well, my identity as a voter came from my Filipino immigrant parents. They believed with all their heart that being an American citizen carried the responsibility of voting. And they knew that their vote was just as important as anybody else's. They became citizens in the late 70s. So I have run with that. I'm not going to run for office, and I'm definitely above 30. I'm beyond 30 years old. But as a member of the League of Women Voters, we are a nonpartisan group of men and women, citizens and non-citizens, and future citizens, voters and future voters who are 16 years and older or better. And 16-year-olds can pre-register to vote because their local office of elections will hold on to their application
until they get to 18
of age,
to be able to vote.
So don't think you're too young to vote if you're 16, 17, because if you're 17 and you turn 18 before November 5th or by November 5th,
right,
you can make history and cast your vote this year.
Wow. Early voting starts in Virginia tomorrow, September the 20th, right?
Yes.
Okay, so since both of you younger folk here deal with, but you're busy convincing college-age students and kids, young people in their 20s, 30s, etc., to register. What are they telling you? Destiny, let's start with you.
I think there's been a shift from 2021 about 2022 to right now. So back then, a lot of people that I encountered, they would say, voting doesn't matter. There's nothing changing. So it really took a lot of convincing then to show them. I actually had to bring out the statistics. This is what's happening. And even, not just with the general election, but local elections, state elections. Now, and it's a positive change. I see a different change. This time around, this actually does remind me of the 2008 general election. People are excited. People are ready to vote. They're registering. And I really believe it's because the shift in the candidates that we have. So I don't find it as much as I have to convince them to vote. I just have to share with them how to vote. Okay. And that's what I'm finding now.
What about you, Jalen?
I think Destiny was spot on on the topic of a shift at the top of the Democratic ticket that is encouraging more people to participate in the process, right? Because a few months ago, what we were hearing from young voters who I work with on a daily basis, we were hearing that the two options that they had were two older candidates. And how could, in the United States of America, could this be the only two options that we have, right? And since the shift at the top of the ticket over the summer, we've seen since students have come back to campus that they are excited, they are mobilizing, they're energized, and they're ready to go out and vote. But they're also encouraging their peers to vote. And they're using tools like social media, like Instagram, like TikTok, like X to meet people where they are. And that's a main thing that we have to focus on right now is meeting people where they are. Everyone isn't politically inclined. Everyone isn't politically educated and aware like we are because we watch the headlines every day, right? And so you have to have the ability to shift and adjust to where people are when it comes to being engaged with civic engagement.
So I know we spend a lot of time always on the presidential election because that's like the big kahuna. But what are you saying to people for the down ballot, for those local elections, which really impact your life on a day-to-day basis? And I'm going to come to you in a minute, Vicki. Go ahead.
It does. And to Destiny's point of once she got to the State Council of Higher Education Student Advisory Council, which I served on as well while at Norfolk State, you get to see how much of an impact local elections really have on college students that might not even be from Virginia. These delegates and state senators and local elected officials are the ones making the decisions about budgets, right? The state senators and state legislators are the ones making decisions about how much money is going towards HBCUs and colleges and universities around the state of Virginia. And so if you want to make sure that your tuition doesn't go up, then you should participate down ballot, right?
Makes sense.
Right.
Definitely. Go ahead.
And I'm very excited to be on the Student Advisory Council because I get to actually get more information on how those state and local elections will affect us and bring it right back on campus, share with them, hey, you know, we've got a governor's election next year. And this is very important. This actually directly impacts us. So I'm very excited to serve up there so I could go ahead and get all the information I need to share with all NSU students.
So, Vicki, I know that there are tons of places you can go where everybody's doing voter registration drives and so forth. What do you need to have with you when you're registered, when you want to register to vote?
You definitely need to make sure that you know your Social Security number, and you don't have to give it to a third-party voter registration volunteer. You can go online to elections.virginia.gov, and it's easy peasy.
So you can register online?
Online, and that's great for our friends who are in college and need to update their voter just address so that they can vote where they are, or if they would like to, they can also ask for an absentee ballot, do early voting if they come home, because they're more likely to know about the local races than they would if they were away from home at a college 5 hours away.
Absolutely.
Right.
And one thing I was thinking of when Jalen and Destiny were talking, the landscape of voting has changed significantly. We used to vote just in person on one day. Now we have changed, and I think college students have also changed their attitudes. When we used to do Get Out the Vote, GOTV, a lot of people are like, what's GOTV? Get out the vote. And that's not telling people what to do, who to vote for, but just to vote and use their voices. Some of the college kids would tell us, I'm not political. Well, when Jalen was talking about budget decisions, that's investments in our communities and in our people, public schools, public transit, housing. So we want people to use their voice so that we're well represented at the local, state, and national level. So definitely get informed about your candidates. I know the Virginian Pilot, and I'm sure the WHRO news team is working on candidate questions and voter guides.
Sure, absolutely. As a matter of fact, you can go to whro.org/voter guide 2024 in order to get information about the candidates. 757-440-2665 or 1-800-940-2240 are the numbers to call to join our conversation. What questions do you have about voting? Have you faced any issues in terms of trying to register or to actually vote at a precinct? Give us a call. Let us answer your questions. 757-440-2665 or 1-800-940-2240. Okay, so early voting starts tomorrow, the 20th, in Virginia.
Yes.
It does not start in North Carolina until October the 17th.
Yes.
Yes.
Right?
It's a very
Correct?
short window.
It's a very short window, October the 17th to November 2nd, and that's in-person early voting.
Yes.
In North Carolina. In Virginia, it is September 20th through November 2nd.
Yes, ma'am.
So talk to me about early voting. What does that allow you to do, and where do you go? Give me the nuts and bolts, Jim.
Well, it's about convenience, right? If you know that you're not going to be able to vote on election day, or if you don't want to stand in lines or have to worry about traffic or anything like that, you go and early vote, right? It gives you access to be able to exercise your right to vote, as we all have. And usually you'll be able to go to your local city hall, but every municipality is different, right? And there's different early voting locations. And so you can go to your local municipal website to find out exactly your location based off the city or the district that you live in and the county that you live in. But every county allows you to be able to early vote, and you can find that information on their website.
On their website, okay. Destiny, what kind of homework do you need to do in order to be an informed voter?
That's a great question. I feel like for me, it's different for everyone. Just like Jalen said earlier, not everybody is politically inclined and politically, knowledgeable. I believe that if you are in that group where, I don't know about this person, I don't know about that person, which, a lot of times that's in our generation, and they're saying, what can they do for me? I would say to look at their policies first. Don't look at the person and how, they are on TV or, what they say. Look at the policies.
Social media wise.
Social media. And honestly, I'm 21 years old. I'm about to be 22. I love social media, but sometimes I really feel like that is the downfall of us because it is so much misinformation being spread. So I believe to look at the policies. The policies is what is going to determine who you should vote for. No matter how that person is as a person or, how they are, the policies is what really is going to show you this is who I need to lean towards. So I would first look at those, what are they trying to implement in America? And then 2, look to see how you relate to that person, how you connect with that person. I believe that a lot of times why we vote for who we vote for or how we connect with other people is how we feel, how we see ourselves in them. If they're a reflection of us, if their background is the same as us, if their family values, their economic values, social values, if they're the same as us, I believe that is how you are able to connect with that person and make the decision right there. So those 2 pieces are a good way to start your homework on how to vote.
Okay, Vicki.
And the league has put out the do's and don'ts of election disinformation. Do verify before you share, do question the content, do share accurate information, do report it if you know that it's inaccurate. Don't click or share without knowing if it's good information, and don't engage publicly. If there's someone who's posting something that's bad information, message them privately. Don't get in on a...
Don't get into a back and forth.
That's going to only worsen it.
Counterproductive too. Okay, so Vicki, what's the difference between having an absentee ballot and voting early?
Well, I think that it's basically pretty much the same, but
Okay.
when you vote early, you're in person, either at the local office of elections of your city or at a satellite office that that the different municipalities will advertise, like the hours and the locations. Not all the polling precincts will be open for early voting. Absentee ballot is if you are far away, if you are a citizen overseas or a serviceman or woman, you can ask for absentee ballot. And I'll just share a really quick anecdote.
Sure.
When we were doing a tabling event just this past Saturday at MacArthur Center at Lush Cosmetics, they're our national local partner in getting out the vote. A young woman told us she was not going to vote. She was getting ready to deploy. This is someone who serves our country, and we really thought as someone who serves our country, she should use her voice. But we are trying to stay in a nonpartisan, non-judgment zone. So we just told her, please visit the Norfolk Office of Elections. There was a QR code on a card that we had. We told her we understand she's busy. She's trying to get out of town, make sure that everything's taken care of before she leaves the 757. We just wanted her to visit the Office of Elections to see how easy it would be for her to ask for an absentee ballot for voting overseas.
Was she already registered?
We didn't want to put her off. She really, when she told us she wasn't going to vote, and we asked her how long she'd been serving in the Navy, and it was 5 years, I was like thinking, oh my goodness, I hope you voted the previous few years. So I tried to put on my poker face, and we just gave her the information, and we hope she'll take it. And that's all we can do when we encourage folks.
So, Jalen, what kind of questions are asked because I registered so long ago to vote, I don't even know what's on the application anymore, but what kinds of questions do you have to answer in order to register?
Yeah, they're basic questions that you would go and fill out if you were going to the DMV to fill out for a driver's license or anything like that, right? Basic information of your name, your address.
Are you a citizen?
Are you a U.S. citizen? Where you're located and things like that. I don't know if you want to add anything to...
Basically, I know that DMV does a great job of making sure that the basic question, are you a U.S. citizen? Do you live in Virginia? That's the only way you can register to vote in Virginia. They do not accept out-of-state, licenses. So you have to be a resident of Virginia and
I
a
believe
citizen.
that's the same thing for North Carolina, right?
Absolutely.
You have to be a resident of North Carolina. And as a matter of fact, in North Carolina, if I read correctly, you have to go only through it. You have to register through DMV, or you have to have a DMV type identification, be it license or an ID,
and
right?
With the Real ID process now, they're asking the right questions to make sure that people aren't accidentally or inadvertently registering to vote if they don't fall under the citizen or resident category.
What if you have fallen? You've done your time. You have a record, but it has to be a felony, like a misdemeanor. Would that count against you in terms of being able to register?
Well,
or not?
You definitely, if you have served some time and you have had, you need to apply to have your restoration, your rights restored.
Yes,
and
is that
it's
no matter
under a
what
felony.
It's under a
felony.
Okay.
So, I believe that our citizens should not, this is just my personal opinion, they should not lose the right to vote because they don't stop being an American just because they've made a mistake, a criminal mistake. But our process in Virginia is to have their rights restored, and then they can reapply to vote in Virginia.
Yep.
Now, is there a deadline for is there a registration deadline in Virginia and in North Carolina?
So in Virginia, there's an online registration deadline of October 15th, Tuesday, October 15th, and a mail-in registration deadline, and they need to be postmarked by Tuesday, October 15th as well.
Okay.
But I'll remind everybody that there's such a thing as same-day voting.
Yes.
You can ask for a provisional ballot with your ID, and a provisional ballot's basically saying that at the time a person reports to a polling place, they can't verify their voter information, so they'll just hold on to the completed ballot by that individual until they can verify that that person is indeed registered
so
to
if
vote.
you vote provisionally, then what do you have to do, or what's your responsibility in terms of making sure that they get the right information so that your vote can count? Because it won't count if it's not verified. Is that right?
Right, but you can sign a confirmation of identity.
Okay.
I forget what the exact term is, but the beauty of everything is that elections.virginia.gov, they have FAQs, they have all the information, and if anyone can just remember those 3 little words, elections.virginia.gov, that would answer all our questions about this election cycle.
Right. Or if you have any questions, call your local registrar's office. They would love to hear from the citizens.
Absolutely.
They would love to get questions from their citizens in their districts about how to vote and how the process works.
So once you've registered, you're registered. If you registered like me, I've been voting forever.
Me too, Barbara. Me too.
But there's always this question of people being purged from voter rolls and so forth. Should you each election go online and make sure that you're registered, and what's that process like?
Absolutely. Go online, make sure you are registered, because once you get there, you don't want to, have a holdup or anything. You want a confirmation. You want to make sure that you are good to go. Every single election, no matter if it's general, state, or local, make sure you go online, make sure that you are registered, everything is good to go.
I can share a personal story. This morning, getting ready for this show, I went on Virginia, the election.virginia.gov, and I put in Ham Lee as my last name. I couldn't remember how DMV, I didn't look at my license, so I couldn't remember how DMV had me listed. So it came back that I was not registered. And then I took out the Ham, because apparently DMV has Ham as a middle name for me, and just had Barbara Lee, and then it came up.
Right, that citizen portal is so important. And what Destiny was talking about online, it will, if once you put in your information, it will give you the answers you need.
It's really quick. It takes no time to figure it out.
Simple.
You don't want to show up on election day and have that issue. But again, the good thing is here in Virginia, we have same day registration. So
now there is not same day registration in North Carolina. Is that right?
Oh, I'd have to check
or
that.
Or do we know?
There actually is.
Is it? Okay. All right. I just wanted to double check to make sure. Hold on one second. I'm looking as we... okay. North Carolina does not offer registration on election day.
But same day registration during early voting.
Right, same day registration. So if you have that small window. So if you do early voting, you can register and vote early.
Yes.
But on election day, you must be already registered.
And the great thing in North Carolina is they have a little bit more time to learn about their candidates if they want to learn more about down ballot, because early voting doesn't start again until mid-October.
October 17th. Yeah. Go
I
ahead.
was going to mention one more thing.
Sure.
The thing is here in Virginia, and this is why it's important to. I mean, we vote so often in Virginia because we have elections every year.
Yes,
we
But
do.
you would not think
Always
it's
an
important to
election.
check and make sure you're registered, but you still should every year check to make sure that you're still registered to vote.
Okay. Vicki, we talked about younger people and them learning about the candidates and being inspired to vote, but some of our more senior citizens, seasoned citizens too, there's apathy there also.
Oh.
What do you say to people who say, you know what, that's just a waste of my time?
What I say is, again, I try to stay in the non-judgment zone. I'm like, not to put too fine of a point on it. Do you want our school divisions, public school divisions, to be strong so there aren't children who have nothing to do and are, not acting positively in their community? Everything is tied together. We know that public education policy is affordable housing policy, is public transit policy, is economic development policy. So all that policy talk, that's just saying that we, the people, need to vote for leaders who represent our interests. We should never vote against our interests, but sometimes folks do. So to answer your question, I would encourage all voters of all ages to get informed, vote informed, and know that even our older citizens are better, 65 and better. If they have a disability, they can vote from their vehicle on election day. They can ask for assistance if they are visually impaired or have low vision. There are so many accommodations now that we should be in no excuse land because this is our community. We want to make sure that we are shaping the future, the present and the future for all of us.
Absolutely.
Are you guys concerned at all about the atmosphere around voting this time and what may or may not happen at the polls? Is that any conversation that's
For Virginia,
Yeah.
no. I don't think I feel any concern because like Jalen said, we have elections every year in Virginia. This is like routine for us. We already know how it goes. And I'm also not concerned. I'm actually very excited because our generation, you had said something about the generation that you were in. They didn't really know about, the voting and, the different organizations. I believe our generation now has a spirit that the generation of like the 60s had during the civil rights era. I'm really excited because I really believe we do because we want change and we ask questions. One thing about us, we're going to ask you a question and we're going to keep asking until you give us a solid answer. And I believe that same spirit that carried through the civil rights era is right here in our generation. And I'm so excited to see what's going to happen on November 5th.
And Destiny, that inspires me because we know that the future is yours, and we want our younger voters to be engaged. So I also agree with you. There's talk about disruptions. Our election officials are so wonderful. They are underpaid and they work so hard, but we are so grateful for their public service in our communities, and we will make sure that everyone feels safe and protected. And I know that they've had provisions for that all this time. So we are so excited about this election season. I can't wait till tomorrow.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll just
Go
add
ahead,
one more
Tim.
thing. I agree with Destiny's. Young voters are excited. There's this perception that's out there that young voters aren't educated. They're not aware. They don't know what's going on. We have access to information like our seniors didn't have access to information like 60 years ago, right? We have access to be educated about voting and on the issues. And like you mentioned earlier, a lot of these issues intersect, right? And young voters are able to see it via social media because of our access to information. We're able to see these things happening and how policies are being made. And, we're able to see the things that we disagree with vividly through our phones. And so young voters are ready, they're excited, and they're ready to get out and vote.
Okay, we have 2 minutes left. I want each of you to say one thing to encourage someone who is not registered yet to get out and vote, or who is registered but may be wishy-washy about actually voting. Jalen, I'll start with you.
Okay. Well, I understand, the frustration amongst young people, but I remind them that disengaging won't make things better. In fact, it leaves the power in the hands of those who may not have their best interests in mind. Change doesn't happen overnight, but by staying involved and using our collective power, young people can shape the future that we want to see and protect our democracy.
Okay. Destiny?
I will say for those who aren't registered yet, or for those who are registered but don't know, think about your children. A lot of times when I'm doing things like this, I think about what I want my kids to go through. I don't want them to go through the same things that I went through, and I don't want them to experience those who don't have our best interest. I want them to get the best version of the United States of America that they can. So think about your children.
Fantastic. And Vicki?
As a LWV, League of Women Voter leader, I'd like to remind others that I couldn't have witnessed the struggle, the original struggle for women's suffrage. And when we won the vote in 1920, it was just white women. So I have been inspired by all those that have come before me to make sure that our civil rights, our voting rights are given to every American in this country. And that was instilled in my parents. They might not have agreed with me politically, but we never tell people who to vote for. We just want them to go out and vote and use their voices.
Thank you all so much for joining us. I really appreciate it. Get out and vote, please. And when we come back, Jay Sinnett and Justin Kauflin and all that jazz. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Thank you. The Phoebus Jazz Festival is happening next Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, September 27th, 28th, and 29th at the American Theater in Hampton. This is the first major production by Hampton Roads Jazz Incorporated, founded by our very own Jay Sinnett. Jay is here along with jazz pianist and composer Justin Kauflin to tell us all about it. Hey, gentlemen.
Hey.
How are you?
Doing well. Thanks for having us.
I am really excited that you guys are here. And Justin, I haven't seen you in a minute, so it's good to see you.
I'm just very happy to be back here. I like visiting this place.
Thanks
so much. So Jay, what's going on?
Well, the organization HR Jazz has we produced. Well, I did the festival back in 2019.
Okay.
Phoebus Jazz Festival in 19, and I was in a process of trying to get 2020 together, and we know what happened. Armageddon hit, shut down the world. And then I formed this nonprofit, HR Jazz, Inc., Hampton Roads Jazz Incorporated, and decided to bring back the festival, right? And keep it in a smaller environment. We're not trying to go big with it, trying to keep it small to medium. And the American Theater was a perfect fit for us logistically and acoustically. Great sound. We're considered a startup. Since we're first year nonprofit, anybody knows anything about nonprofits, you get through that first year, you're okay, but getting through that first year. So, we don't really have a marketing budget, it's word of mouth, and we have our own projections of what we would like to see per day. But to pull this off, and I know we will, I'm not going to say I think we will, we'll pull this off, we'll get to our projections. And I wanted to feature some of the top area talent, jazz talent, interspersed with some of the great national stars.
Oh, okay. So tell us who's going to be in the festival.
Well, on Friday, to kick it off, the 27th, and the shows start at 7:30, Friday night, Saturday night, 7:30, and 3 p.m. Sunday afternoon. Friday night, Hampton trumpeter Dwayne Smith and his Virginia Experiment Quartet. Dwayne is a visionary because he wears many different hats. He has the fuzz band. He does a lot of really interesting creative things. So they're going to open up Friday.
Okay.
Then Virginia Beach vocalist Liz Terrell Bridge put out a fantastic record called It's All Right With Me, doing some tracks from that. Her husband Chris will be playing bass, Alan Farnham piano, and then wrapping it up, my 0 to 60 quartet with special guest saxophonist and Hampton native Steve Wilson, and the Symphonicity Orchestra. We're going to do a repeat of that performance. That's Friday, so there's a lot going on Friday night. And then Saturday, the Latin jazz group, the Latin Jazz Conspiracy. We'll be playing the horn band, salsa horn band, fantastic, featuring a monster pianist. He's actually the jazz director of University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill, Stephen Anderson, fantastic Latin jazz pianist. And then wrapping it up, celebrating 50 years, the Headhunters. Wow. If you're familiar with the 70s, you know Herbie Hancock and the Headhunters. Well, the Headhunters tour as a separate entity, right away from Herbie. Herbie's here Sunday, but the Headhunters are coming in the following Saturday, the 28th. So the Latin Jazz Conspiracy on Saturday night, Headhunters on...
So we listen to the Headhunters now, right?
Yeah, that's Headhunters right there. Mike Clark, funky, man. So it's a very cool, funky jazz.
Hey, no, let's play a little bit of it. Ooh,
that's classic
funky.
material.
Yeah,
that's classic material.
Okay.
So that's what they're going to be doing.
That's on Saturday night.
That's Saturday night.
Okay.
And then Sunday, 9-time Grammy-nominated vocalist Tierney Sutton, with a fantastic pianist with her Tamir Hendelman, who Justin knows well. And then we're going to close it out with this gentleman right here.
Whoops, sorry about that.
Just Justin Kauflin.
Justin, what are you going to be doing for us?
Hey, well,
I'm telling you, first of all, if you have never seen Justin perform, you are in for such a treat.
He's okay. He's okay.
Would you
He's
say
struggling.
he's okay?
He's trying to find his way. Hey, but this is going to be fun because I was fortunate enough to be with Jay to what, 10 years probably?
At least.
Coming out of high school, I was a member of the trio and learned a great deal playing with him and Terry and Alan, Farnham, the pianist. So this is fun because it's a bit of a reunion for us. We've done maybe one performance since because I left the area. I was in New York for a while and I was in LA for
But why did you leave the area out in California? What were you doing?
I was with a fella. I was fortunate enough to be picked up and a part of a management.
What you say his name was?
With Quincy Jones.
Yeah, Quincy. Yeah, I heard
Jones.
that name before. Yeah.
So that's what I was doing out there, and a very, very beautiful cat.
Oh my goodness!
But found myself back in the area. I'm actually teaching over at the Governor's School, which was a surprise for me. But about 2 years ago, I was back in the area.
Yeah.
And the school where I met Jay, is now where I'm able to try to work with the young folks.
Work with the next generation, right?
They're a great group of students.
And he's a young folk.
I'm getting older now. I feel it. Tell you what, they got the gray hairs. I know people have been pointing those out. But actually, and a side note, some of the kids will be performing as open, playing in the lobby as people are there. So a little bit of a GSA collab, which I'm real excited about. But to play with Jay and Terry in this sort of setting. It's a pretty jam-packed weekend, but this is going to be a nice thing. We're going to dig in, I think.
You know what's playing right now?
Oh, come on, man. I don't want to hear that guy, man.
Listen to that.
I don't want to hear that guy. He didn't sound
I
like
do want to ask you, though, Justin, because I'm always curious, and I've asked Jay this in the past, too. What is going through your mind while you're playing? I mean, where are you?
Well, ideally, nothing. I'll be honest.
Okay.
I think it's best when the music is flowing. I think spending the amount of time I played with Jay and understanding that being present in the moment is extremely important, and sometimes the thoughts can get in that way. So I want to be as open and as flexible so that when the moment is there, you want to be there to seize it. And to react to what Jay is playing or what Terry's playing.
But when you're grooving, right? I mean, do you hit a point where you just know you're just there? You know what I mean?
Absolutely. And that's it. You want to be open for that, And for me, I'm a very, if you can't tell already, I'm a very self-critical type of person. So the less I'm thinking, the better off we all are, just let the music happen.
Just let it happen.
And we're going to stir up some fire, I think. That's what I want to do.
No doubt.
Wow.
No doubt.
We want to dig in.
Jay, if somebody is coming to these concerts one day next weekend, and they are more of a smooth jazz listener overall,
Right.
What do you say to them? What should they expect, or how do you tell them keep an open mind because you're getting ready to experience something different, a little bit different?
Okay, Barbara.
Because you know me.
Yeah.
You.
But it's a complex discussion. It's a complex answer because without having to get in musical definitions and musical examples,
just experience.
I just ask people just to try to be open. You know, it's not this funky dance vibe. It's not one of, hey, come on, man, yeah, oh, no, it's not that. This is a very different kind of sophisticated art, and I just ask people, you know, if you're a smooth jazz lover, give it a shot. You know, come out and really hear the other side of this. You know, hear the foundation. And this is what the organization is trying to do. This is what I want to represent with HR Jazz, is the integrity of the music, keeping the music, and as jazz. Right now, there are many different. I'm going different directions even on the festival with the Headhunters, for example. Like smooth jazz lovers would definitely love
it. Yeah,
the Headhunters
because
they're funky.
Yeah.
You know, but I think they'll appreciate what Dwayne's going to do.
Absolutely, I think he touches upon that as well.
Yeah,
you know, kind of straddles the line. That's it. Yeah.
Liz is a beautiful singer. You're going to dig that, the sound, and then jazz meets orchestra, which is still a rare collaboration. It's not a new collaboration, but it's still definitely rare. With Steve Wilson, the way he plays, Steve is perfect, melodically speaking and lyrically speaking.
One thing
for the orchestra.
I saw one of your threads on Facebook. We were talking about people liking the music, but if they don't know the artist's name, that there's that disconnect.
Herbie Hancock talked about this a lot recently. He said that people basically now aren't paying to come and hear the music. And let me give you a good example of what I'm talking about. I was in a record store in Virginia Beach one day. I'm not going to let everybody know it was Birdland Records. And so Barry had he had Jeffrey Keezer, pianist Jeffrey Keezer, playing on the store system. This was a couple years ago, a few years back. And there was this guy in the store who said, man, this is fantastic. Who is this? Man, I know this is Herbie Hancock. I have to get me some new Herbie Hancock, right? And I knew who it was. I knew it was Jeffrey Keezer. So he goes up and asks the owner, man, who's this playing? This is smoking. I got to get this. And the guy said, it's Jeffrey Keezer. And the guy said, who? He said, Jeffrey Keezer. He said, oh, man, I thought I was going to get me some new Herbie Hancock, and walked out the store.
Oh, wow.
And he
liked the music.
He liked it. He loved the music. But that's where we are right now, and that's what Herbie was talking about. People pay to see the name. And I ask people, I look at the Phoebus Jazz Festival, it's loaded with talent. It's not loaded with a big all-star, big marquee names, but it's loaded with talent. So if you want to experience great talent, a variety of great jazz.
I was going to
talent.
say the diversity is well represented as well. I mean,
absolutely.
If one thing is maybe not to your taste, there's plenty more on offer.
And that's what I was trying to do in programming the festival, right? To give everybody, there's something for everyone there at the festival.
So what does it take to put together a festival like this?
Your sanity. The biggest challenge for me is keeping my sanity, because there are a lot of moving parts. You know, you have to. The logistics of it. When's everybody flying in? Who needs the hotel rooms? Who's going to drive the van? Who's going to pick them up at the airport? What do they want on their riders? What kind? Well, I want this certain kind of organic peanut butter, and you want that. that
better have my bottle of red wine, Jay. You know what I mean? That's in my rider.
Yeah.
Bottle of red,
some
bottle of white.
tequila, which they will not get. But there's a lot of. We need some volunteers. We need to find a driver who I'm going to pay. We're going to rent a van. There are
so if people
schedules.
are interested in participating or helping you, what do they do? How do they reach out to you?
Drop me an email to jjazz, JAEJAZZ @yahoo.com, jjazz@yahoo.com. If you want to participate as a volunteer, if you maybe want to be the driver, we can talk about that. But more importantly, Barbara, we want people to get tickets. Buy tickets. Now, I want to say something about this because there's been a lot of talk about Ticketmaster fees, because you end up paying $35 for a ticket, but then you tack on taxes and Ticketmaster fees. Now you're up to $50, right? You can buy tickets at the American Theater box office Thursday and Friday from 10 until 2 to avoid those fees. Basically, if you pay it online, then you're paying for the convenience of it. So you're going to pay a little bit more if you get the tickets online. But at hamptonarts.org, that's where you can get tickets for the Phoebus Jazz Festival. You can see the lineup, the days. There's a package deal. You want to get all 3 tickets, you save a little bit of money. That's hamptonarts.org, and you can see the lineup.
hamptonarts.org.
hamptonarts.org, and you can get tickets there if you want to get online.
I want to let the audience know, Lisa, our crackerjack producer, just told me that we're having some technical issues with the phone line. So if you have a question for Jay or for Justin, hit our Facebook page and send us your question there, and we will get the question answered. We're trying to work on these phone issues, but right now, go to social media, send us your question, and we will answer it while we're sitting here.
Do it fast. You got 9 minutes.
That's true, because you got about 9 minutes left.
Very good.
So, Justin, how has your music or your playing evolved since you started working with Jay at first? And when you went to work with Quincy, was it like totally different?
Well, let me see if I can do this in a nutshell. So kind of backtracking, because I met Jay, I was a sophomore at Governor School, and that's when I started. He, took me out to play locally, and I do know one milestone for me in my own development was, I was learning the mechanics of jazz at the school, and was studying with wonderful teachers, Liz Barnes, Chris Bridge, actually, who's at the festival, was one of my teachers back then, and was getting all the mechanics and learning the repertoire, and then performing with Jay gave me this glimpse into this other stage of what it means to perform, what it means to play, and sort of showing me that the ceiling in terms of energy and where you can strive in your own music and in my solos and how I present what I'm playing. That ceiling, he introduced a higher ceiling, basically. Say, man, you can go higher than that. I'm looking for more. And then that was a 10-year period where I learned a lot about this, how to cultivate that and to understand, you think you've plateaued, you got a lot more to go,
Justin would say to me, man, I can't do that. And that's exactly what I would do, right? I would do just that, what he just said he was uncomfortable with. Like, I remember when he said he had a tricky time playing in 5/4 time. So what did I do with him? I said, we're going to play something in 5/4 time, So it was a constant push.
You pushed him.
Constant push with him. And because I knew he would come around and be open up to it and get it. Justin has an incredible sense of interpretation.
It was good. Really. It was good and something that, so when I did end up going up to New York and being up there, and I connected with a fellow named Clark Terry, who's our relationship is chronicled in the documentary Keep On Keeping On. And spending time with him gave me this other perspective. I mean, this guy was with Duke Ellington and Count Basie, Oscar Peterson, Ella Fitzgerald. So to kind of learn from him and learn many life lessons as well as musical lessons, and finding out a little bit more. I think each of these people, Mulgrew Miller was a big influence on me, Clark and Quincy as well. All brought a different thing for me to learn from and to incorporate. With Mulgrew and Clark and with Quincy, to be honest, there's a natural humility that I think. So not only the musical things, but just who you are as a person will come out in the music. So
I was going to say life lessons.
Work on it.
Influence the music and influence
my
the way
music is only going to be, and that's something that Quincy always likes to say too. Your music will only be as good as the person, performing and talking about the integrity, but also of course the passion and you go for it. But
Jay, we got about 3 minutes left. I want to ask you that same question. How have you evolved?
Oh, man. Barbara, I've been doing this a long time, and I remember a conversation that I had with the great drummer Steve Gadd several years ago, and he looked at me and said, Jay, I've never gotten hired to play a drum solo. And I thought about that for a moment. He's one of the greatest drummers in the world. He said, he's played drum solos on records, but he says he's never gotten hired
to say we're going to focus
and
on
so
this.
then the question is, well, what were they hiring you for? And it's how he made what he played feel. It's how he made what the song felt like. So the whole thing was about feel. And that probably with me over the past 10, 12, 13 years has been my primary focus. It's like, how can I swing? How can I make this piece feel good? I'm not that interested now in playing drum solos. I mean, I still do, but it's not front and center with me now. I just want to make the music feel good with good time. I want to have a good foundation for someone like Justin or Terry. When they play with me, I want them to feel good when they play. That's the role now.
Have you guys been rehearsing?
No.
Oh man, so much rehearsals. Yeah, we talked outside the door.
That was
and Jay
our
was like, "Hey,
rehearsal.
what are we gonna play?" And I said, "Well, why don't we do Old Devil Moon? I want to do that." He said, "Oh, wait a minute, hold on. It's been a long time." I said, "Yeah, back to when I was 15. Let's go back about 20. Let's do it, Old Devil Moon. That's it, because that's the song."
So he hums it to me.
No, that's the one. That's the one that was in 5. And he was like, "Not only is it in 5, but it swings in 5, which is that's a whole nother level
That's
of
a whole
difficulty."
different thing, right?
But hey,
Get ready.
So
Get
that
ready
was the
to go
rehearsal.
for it.
I said, remind me how that goes.
Oh yeah, no, we're gonna go in.
All right.
And you know what I like? He said what you said is playing for other people. I think that's what you get into. It's like, no, I don't want to play for myself. I want to play for other people to feel good.
Absolutely. Right. All right, last minute and a half. Tell us again who's on and how we get tickets.
Phoebus Jazz Festival next weekend, September 27th through the 28th. 27th, 28th start at 7:30. All right. Friday night, Dwayne Smith, Virginia Experiment Quartet. Liz Terrell Bridge, outstanding vocalist, wrapping up with my 0 to 60 quartet with special guest Steve Wilson and the fantastic Symphonicity Orchestra. Saturday night, the Latin Jazz Conspiracy gets underway at 7:30, followed by 50 years of the Headhunters on Saturday night, and then Sunday, 3 o'clock Sunday show. Grammy-nominated singer Tierney Sutton, featuring pianist Tamir Hindelman, and wrapping up with Justin and the trio. And tickets are available, and you can see the lineup at hamptonarts.org.
hamptonarts.org. Go buy your tickets at the
Please
theater.
buy your tickets.
And come on out.
This is going to be a yearly thing, Barbara. And what my organization is also working on now, we're going to start the Hampton Roads Jazz Series in all 7 cities.
Oh, wow.
So we
got a lot more coming along. Absolutely. Thank you, gentlemen, so much. Justin, it's good to see you.
Good to see you, too.
Absolutely. And Jay,
I
as
appreciate
always,
you.
not a problem. Thank you so much, and good luck next weekend. I know it's going to be awesome.
It's going to be a blast.
And audience, thank you so much for listening to today's program. You can hear it again or any Another View broadcast at anotherviewradio.org, at Spotify, or wherever you go for your podcast listening pleasure. Next week on Another View, the impending doctor shortage in our area and this country and what we need to do about it. We close out today's show remembering yet another highly recognized musician who recently passed away, guitarist Tito Jackson. Toriando Darrell Tito Jackson passed away on Sunday. Tito was a founding member of the Jackson 5 and later the Jacksons, who rose to fame in the late 1960s and 70s on the Motown label. Despite being a talented guitar player, his guitar work wasn't featured until the Jacksons left Motown for CBS Records in 1976. Throughout his career, he wrote songs with his brothers and served as a record producer. Tito, along with his brothers, was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 1997. He passed away following a medical emergency in New Mexico. He was 70 years old. Our theme music is an original composition created especially for Another View by Jay Sinnett. Lisa Godley is our show producer. Jordan Christie is our audio engineer, and Dr. Barry Graham answered our phones. I'm Barbara Ham-Lee. Have a fantastic weekend, everyone. Let's get together again next Thursday at noon for Another View. Enjoy some music from Tito.
Support comes from Hampton Roads Community Foundation, carrying out your charitable wishes forever, whether it's helping shelter animals, feeding the homeless, enhancing the arts, or supporting students. Learn more at leaveabequest.org.